A laptop held hostage. This tale is from about 20 years ago when I was fairly new at my university sysadmin job. Apologies for length, trust me, I've abridged this. Our cast of characters: me, your humble narrator Professor, on the faculty of my department. Always professional with me but has a reputation for being extremely stubborn under a veneer of reasonableness. Professora, on the faculty of a different department. Extremely stubborn and inflexible, and does not care what temperature revenge is served out at. $DH, in other posts I've done he's $Big Boss. Very smart guy but not a great administrator, does not like dealing with management issues. Mike, department head of Professora. Actually a totally cool guy, great sense of humor, actually does stand-up comedy as a side gig. Namibian dollar, lab assistant for Professora, like me she's caught in the middle of this farce. One of my collateral responsibilities was the department equipment inventory. All assets worth over a certain dollar value had to tracked and accounted for every year. In my case it almost all computers with a few other items, like expensive furniture, thrown in. Since it was mostly computers, I ended up with this project. Most other departments, who had way fewer items, assigned this task to one of the clerical staff. Anyway, one day I get a call from Professor. He says since I'm the inventory monkey, he'd like me to track down a laptop. Kind of a strange request, but the details soon reveal a real mess. Professor loaned this laptop to Professora, who is in a different department but is also someone he was doing joint research with. However, Professor and Professora are married and in the process of getting divorced. And no, this is not a friendly parting of the ways. Professor has tried to get this laptop back since he has a new graduate student joining his team and he wants to give it to this new student. Professora basically will not talk to him, ignores his calls and emails, and told him to take a running FCK at a Rolling Donut. So, me being the inventory guy, can officially ask Professora to return the laptop. Professor explains this all to me in a calm and professional manner, nothing to get excited about, it should be a piece of cake. I don't see a way to dodge this request, inventory is my responsibility. I look up the laptop in our database, it's several years old, nothing fancy at all. Clearly this isn't really about the laptop, Professor could buy a new one for his student, he has plenty of funding. This is about sticking it to his soon-to-be ex. Arg. I've met Professora, she is not an easy person to work with. Everything is my way or the highway with her. With a sense of impending doom I fire off an email to Professora, asking politely when would be a good time for me to pick up the laptop since Professor needs it back. And hell empties as all the devils descend on me. Professora calls me. I am subjected to a 3-minute tirade about how horrible Professor is. He could solve this issue in 1 second, if he wanted to. He's just being stubborn, and mean, and he's a terrible person. This goes on and on, I keep asking about getting the laptop back. She ups the ante by telling me that Professor has some equipment that belongs to her, and he hasn't returned it and nothing will happen until that is done. This is all new information, so I tell her I'll follow up on this and discuss things with Professor. It also turns out that Professora is actually at a conference in a different city so it might be difficult to reach her. I email Professor, he responds that he doesn't see what one issue has to do with the other. Professora has to return the laptop. I assume it's clear to one and all that both these folks are on pretty high horses, and no one is thinking about climbing down. I explain that he may very well be correct, but maybe this is the easiest way to get the F-King laptop back. We do not track the equipment that Professora wants back, it's a couple of semi-fancy monitors. After some discussion, Professor decides to task one of his students to go through the paperwork to see if we can find them. Turns out this student actually finds the paperwork including serial numbers, and I can collect them from Professor's lab and exchange them for the laptop. We're in Bridge of Spies territory. I email Professora, I have the monitors, can I bring them over and get the laptop? Professora's lab is in the building next door. I get a response. Now I'm informed that Professora also wants a computer back. Professora has no information on it, model number, serial number, or university asset tag number. It had a host name of $L, and Professor knows which one it is and if it isn't returned, no laptop. I tell her I need more information to see if I can track this down. Professora tells me she has no information but Professor knows what she is talking about and he can find the computer in 2 seconds. If he would just make the effort. I go back to Professor with the latest demand. He hits the roof. He recycles host names so he has no idea which computer she is talking about. He says she's making this up, and besides, these issues are not related. It's his laptop and he wants it back. I need to do whatever I need to do to make this happen. At this point I get on the phone to the university property department. I get someone in management on the line and explain my situation. Manager person groans. This is not her first rodeo apparently. I need to escalate to $DH. He can contact the $Mike, they can try to work it out. If that doesn't do it, we'll take to the two deans. If that doesn't do it, the provost's office. Maybe the university legal office will need to be roped in. I'm totally depressed by this time. This laptop is worth a couple $100 tops. I almost want to buy one on eBay out of my own pocket just to make this go away. But then I think, screw this. If the university want to pay me, a senior sysadmin, to deal with a couple of prima donna professors, so be it. So, I jump back into the rabbit hole and resume my tour wonderland. I write the whole thing up in an email, send it to $DH, CC my boss and Professor. I am careful to make no value judgments, just the facts ma'am. $DH tries to contact $Mike, he's out of the office on jury duty. I'm to contact Professora again. Tell her I am bringing her monitors over and I'll be expecting to pick up the laptop. All this goes into an email and a few minutes later my phone rings. Professora is on the line and outraged. She will not give the laptop back, in fact, she hopes nothing bad will happen it. I ask where it is it on campus? It's somewhere in our city. I tell her I'm working on instructions from $DH. She could not care less. $DH is not the boss of her. I'm totally astounded, it's like I'm dealing with an 8-year-old. She tells me once I have all her equipment delivered to her lab, Namibian dollar will provide the laptop. There was a whole side mission about trying to scrape up an old desktop computer to see if we could pass it off as $L, but eventually it was decided that this was too stupid for words. In the end I loaded the monitors, old CRT types, like 60 pounds each, on a cart and took them over to the other building. There was one spot where I had to unload the monitors and carry them up a couple of steps, then drag the cart up the steps and reload the monitors. Joys of older, non-ADA compliant buildings. I got to Professora's lab with the monitors and met Namibian dollar. She was a very nice young lady, seemed as embarrassed as I was by this entire charade. I explained that I had the monitors, I would like the laptop. Namibian dollar says sorry, she has instructions, no $L computer, no laptop. Okay, she's following her boss's orders, nothing for it. I will everything down the main office in this building and ask if there's a room I can leave the cart and monitors overnight since it was almost 5 p.m. and didn't want to lug the monitors and cart down the steps. I go back to my office, write up another email to $DH, and go home. Later that evening I get a reply from $DH, I'm to see him first thing the next morning. He's been in contact with $Mike by email, hopefully we'll be able to wrap this up. Next morning I check in with $DH, he is totally pissed off but he's talked to $Mike, and we're ready to resolve this. $DH and I stroll over to the other building, $DH is muttering the whole time. I feel the same as he does, this whole thing is just so dumb. Two grown people, university professors, can't resolve their petty differences and have dragged all of us into this crazy situation. We meet with $Mike, who is just as amazed by the whole thing as we are. He has talked to Professora and got the same treatment I did. A 30-minute phone call explaining that Professor was the devil incarnate. Why couldn't we all see it? It's like Professor had cast spells on all of us so couldn't see how evil he was. But Professor isn't fooled. She knows the truth. And she will make Professor pay in blood. I retrieve the cart and monitors from the storage room and we ride the elevator up to the lab. Mike is mostly laughing things off, I'm glad someone is enjoying this cause I'm sure not. Namibian dollar is in the lab, Mike politely asks her for laptop. Namibian dollar politely hands the laptop to Mike. Mike hands the laptop to me and asks me to verify that is the correct unit. I check the asset number and confirm that this is the laptop in question. So Namibian dollar's yardarm is clear, she gave the laptop to Mike, not to me. I unload the two monitors and we exit the lab. Basically Professora and Professor were like a pair of scissors. They could spend all day going snip 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 at each other without doing either of them any harm. But God help any poor soul that got between them. There's a sequel to story, but this is long enough.